More broad look at the market, though. Welcome in our next guest. Joining us, Patrick Mueller, the RFC and president of Bella Advisors. Patrick, thank you for being with us. I'd love to just get your thoughts on this Monday holiday morning. We're starting off with a lot of green and some big moves to the upside.
Absolutely. Good to be with you, Marley. And I think a lot of it has to do with Trump's tweets. You had Trump's tweets on Friday when it came to China and tariffs that caused the markets to have quite a downshift on Friday. And then you had messages over the weekend that basically everything's going to be okay, no need to worry about it, and we're seeing the market swing back this morning. So it's always interesting to see how much those tweets and how much those messages shake the markets on a daily basis.
And so you mentioned the tariffs there. As far as the tariffs, are we going to start as we start to kick off this earnings season tomorrow, really, with the big banks? Do you think we're going to start to realize some of the impacts now?
It has to. We have to see some type of shift here because it can't just be all, just pure profits into the company or to the country, because what you're going to end up seeing is the profit margins of these companies, they only have so much to be able to be squeezed by these tariffs. So at a certain point, the consumers are going to start seeing the shift from this. We had bought signs, or we're negotiating signs for our office and earlier this year, and with all the tariff talks that were going on, the cost of the signs, the metal that they were using, went up 50% at that particular point in time. So these things are going to start shaking out down the road. I'm surprised we haven't seen it yet, but I think towards the end of this year, I think we're going to start seeing numbers coming out, and it's going to cause the markets to downshift for a period of time. I think long term, I think the markets will do really well with all the tariffs and us being able to sell into other countries. But in the short term, I think it's going to be rocky.
Rocky, and we start to see some of those potential impacts, knowing that we could see this sort of fuel inflation. As far as it relates to the Fed, do you think that they're going to find themselves boxed in again between inflation and growth support?
I think the Fed's going to continue to keep doing what they've been talking about. They've been pretty adamant since late last year talking about they're going to be slow rolling the moves on interest rates. So I think we're just going to continue to see the Fed just slow rolling down the rates. I don't think we're going to see any knee-jerk reactions from Jerome Powell. I think it's going to stay consistent. So I think we can pretty much count on that. So I don't see any big moves of the Fed dropping the rates any quicker.
So knowing that you see this choppiness coming, what do you think are the best positioned sectors?
The best position sectors, like you were just talking about with the gentleman you were speaking to, AI and tech, long-term, the growth we see there is going to be fantastic. And I like value companies. I like Berkby. I like things that you can close your eyes and 5 years from now, those companies will have been doing well. And then also we're seeing a big rise over the last year in gold and silver because there's been so much uncertainty in the markets. There's been so much uncertainty, and anytime there's uncertainty, you start seeing people start shifting their money into gold and silver and cryptocurrencies and things of that nature.
So if AI is one of our dominant choices, we have to, of course, have a conversation about NVIDIA. And I saw in the notes that you sent over before our talk that you call NVIDIA one stock to rule them all. If that's the case, do we have to be concerned about a vulnerability in the market?
I think so. I think people are putting way too much weight into one particular company right now. It's crazy. It seriously has more money than 5 different sectors going into NVIDIA. So I think we got to be very cautious of that and tying too much to that. So I wouldn't be writing everything on NVIDIA. But you've got companies like AMD that are looking really good right now too when it comes to AI. So I think you just want to make sure you're taking a diversified approach and just don't have too many eggs in the NVIDIA basket moving forward. But it's definitely a good egg.
Yeah, it's certainly done well for people who are holding it right now. But
right.
As far as the AI-driven growth wave, or I've heard people call it the AI tsunami, where do you think the next big growth driver is in AI? Is it in hardware? Is it in software? Is it in something else?
I think you're going to see a lot of it coming from energy because the power consumption of these AI companies is crazy. You're hearing about all these huge mega facilities that are coming out. And that's something we need to pay attention to is what is going to be driving that. So I think the energy sector, the utilities for AI, I think is going to be a big mover moving forward.
And I want to talk about, you mentioned gold and silver too in the same breath, and so I wanted to hit NVIDIA, but I do want to ask about that. With gold at record highs and seemingly continuing this upward rally, which has just been wild to watch, silver demand also really rising, with green tech. How do you balance these in a portfolio, and is it too late to get on the metals train?
I don't think it's too late because there's still so much uncertainty that's going on in the markets with the tariff talks, a weakening dollar. So I think it's a good place to have some money. I wouldn't be putting more than 5%, right, in each one of those different metals of your portfolio. So I take a pretty conservative approach to that. So I think it can be a good hedge against inflation. And it's been on a tear, and I don't see a stop to that anytime moving forward. And especially silver, gold is very fear-driven. Silver, a lot of the demand is coming from the energy from different sectors. So whether it be solar power or whether it is electric cars, there's a big demand for silver, and I think that's going to make it more stable over time.
And we're about to start getting the earnings from the big banks tomorrow. What are some of your expectations as we get this sort of first look into earnings season? And how important do you think they are in setting the tone for what to expect going forward, if at all?
It's going to be interesting seeing the earnings coming out because the country is like a big aircraft carrier. It takes time to turn and to make long-term moves and adjustments. And there's been so many changes with the Trump administration this year that we could see some pain in the short term when it comes to the financials because you've got a lot of companies that are just holding cash on the sidelines trying to see how everything's going to shake out. So it'll be interesting to see how that's going to move moving forward. But when it comes to, we haven't seen IPOs. I think when we have the deregulations that are going to be happening, we're going to start seeing a lot of more IPOs moving forward. And long term, with us being able to sell into other countries that we weren't able to sell into, I think that's going to be really good for the economy long term.
So you said we could see potentially a little bit of short-term pain in some of the numbers that we get. If we do see it, do you think it's going to be enough to be a downward catalyst in the markets, or are we just going to shrug that off like a lot of the other headlines we've gotten?
I think we're overdue for a downside catalyst, and just like we had Liberation Day back in April, where the markets, people are very, very short-minded, right, of what had happened earlier this year, where the markets were down at one point 20% this year. I think we could easily see those swings again, and long term, I think the markets will do just fine. But I think we're gonna definitely see a downward shift, and people starting to reposition their chips as they see how things are going to be moving forwards long term in the market. So I think we're in for some volatility, and we'll see how that shakes out.
Well, Patrick, we appreciate you being with us. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Patrick Mueller, RFC and president of Bella Advisors. And we've got plenty more to come here on Trading 360.